What if you need a script for your podcast? Can Chatty, ChatGPT, help you write the script? Not write it for you, but help you come up with the ideas and organize it in a way where you can use that to write your podcast. Because there are certain types of podcasts where you need to have a script. And that's something that I really learned a lot recently. Hi, I'm Steph from Coffee Like Media, and I want to dive into this today because I have more and more clients who are using a script because it makes sense for their particular podcast. So what I'm doing today is a bit meta. Chatty is going to be helping me get my ideas into a script so I can make a podcast episode today that goes out in a few hours over on Podcast to Connect. And we're doing this all for Coffee Like Media's audience growth push this month, the entire month of July. What kind of podcast might need a script? For example, I have a client who has a history podcast, and there are tons of information, names, location, dates, but also the order that things happen that she wants to explain. It's called Door Key Podcast. It's very good. You should check it out. That's just one example of a type of podcast that needs a script. Also, I've had clients in the past where their nerves just get a hold of them and they can't focus when the record button is pressed and they're in front of the mic. So a script works for them. Now, I tend to go from what I'm working with, what I know, that kind of thing. So I have an idea. I have this burning urge inside of me, and I tend to use my Post-it notes, which are always super handy. I tend to use those and write a quick, 3-word outline that I won't lose track. Actually, this time I wrote it on a piece of paper because I thought it was going to be longer, and then I realized that even my workflow, going from this Chatty episode to recording the Podcast to Connect episode that I'm going to create with Chatty, is something that I didn't even need to write much more on. So I tend to work with an outline. But like I said, there are certain times when that is not needed, that a script is needed. So I want to experience what it's like to work from a script. It's basically a coaching thing. Chatty's going to coach me through my ideas, turn it into a script that's in my words with my tone. And of course, we're going to prompt chain our way through this, and then I'm going to use that to create the episode. Let's do it. Hello.
Hi there. How's it going?
Okay. I need your help writing a script for a podcast episode, but I have very specific criteria, and I want you to ask me questions to get my ideas into a cohesive form.
Sure, I'd be happy to help. What's the main topic of your podcast episode?
So the episode itself is talking about the different audiences that you can talk to on social media to build your podcast audience. Are you ready for the questions that I'd like you to ask me to help write the script?
Absolutely, I'm ready. Go ahead with the questions you'd like me to ask.
Okay, so here are all the questions. I'd like you to ask me them one by one, and at the end of each round, ask me if I'm ready for the next question.
Editing stuff here, and I'm actually going to truncate a lot of the exchanges here because they get kind of long. So if you hear it start to fade out, especially with this one, I'll say number 1, number 2, and then it's gone. I want you to get the full gist of the entire conversation, the entire prompt chaining, not every single specific detail. If you would like those details, go to aiandpodcasting.substack.com and you'll be able to see the full conversation there. All right, here we go.
Question 1 will be, what's the value of this episode for the audience? Question 2 is, and question 4 is, what call to actions do you want in the episode?
Got it. Let's start with the first question. What's the value of this episode for the audience?
The value will be that and that could potentially grow, and that will help grow their audience.
Great. Are you ready for the next question?
I don't know. Was there anything missing in that?
It sounds good. It highlights the value by emphasizing variety and audience growth. If you want, you could mention how these varied posts can engage different demographics or interests. Would you like to add that?
Nah, I think I'm good. Let's move on.
All right. Next question. What is the tip that's in the episode?
Okay, this is going to be the part that I'll need your help with the most because it feels very wordy. But basically, an already existing listener versus somebody who doesn't know your podcast at all versus somebody who's creating a similar podcast, there's differences in the information, the tone, the call to action, probably, all of those things are extremely different.
That's a great tip. So, to summarize, you need to create different types of social media posts tailored to 3 main groups. And are you ready for the next question?
It does. Now, as we're going through these questions, can you start scripting the episode itself? And I guess you have to ask me what the intro is going to be as well.
Absolutely. I can start drafting the script based on our discussion. Before we proceed, what would you like the intro of the episode to focus on?
Yeah, sure. I can actually tell you what I'd like the intro to be. Welcome to Podcast to Connect, helping others create, polish, and get their podcasts out into the world. There. It's long. We probably need to shorten that. That's the intro. Oh no, she's freezing. So whenever she freezes like that, I just go out, and this is a good time to show you that everything Chatty and I are talking about ends up in the text form, so you can copy and paste everything over, which is why I love using this voice function. So I'm just going to go back in, see if she remembers the other stuff. Okay, so did you get that whole intro?
Yes, I got it.
Right, so let's continue on with the questions then.
Sure, let's move on to the next question. What are some specific examples that can demonstrate this tip?
Okay, for example, if you have a new episode, kind of include those folks who might be more interested in the content, your connection to the content, or what happened while you were creating it. So those are 3 different kind of ways to approach a new episode post that are very distinctly different.
Got it. So for promoting a new episode, you could 1. Create a post tailored for current listeners, highlighting key takeaways or interesting points from the episode. Does that cover what you had in mind for the different types of posts?
Yeah, that is much more succinct. Let's move on.
Great. Moving on to the next question. What call to actions do you want in the episode?
Let's put at least one call to action in the beginning. Do I have a call to action in the beginning so far? In the intro?
Not yet. Would you like to add a call to action at the beginning of the episode intro?
Definitely. The call to action should be 2 call to actions.
Got it? Here's the call to action for the beginning of the episode. Does that sound good for the beginning call to action?
Yeah, sure, that works. What's left? What's next?
We've covered everything. We've discussed the value of the episode, the main tip, specific examples, and the call to action.
All right. Can you read the script out to me?
Sure, here's a summary of the script based on our discussion. Intro. Welcome to Podcast to Connect. Does this capture everything we've discussed?
Yes, but please put the 2 call to actions in the intro, not the outro.
Got it.
Can you provide 20 hashtags for LinkedIn to attract business owners, community leaders, and folks interested in podcast marketing, please?
Certainly. Here are 20 hashtags for LinkedIn.
Okay, I'll just grab them from the post. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome. You need anything else?
Oh, stop. Okay, and all of that is in here. Now, I find it interesting that Chatty did not actually read the full script out. She only read a summary of the script. Did you pick up on that? I was like, oh, that's interesting. So they probably don't want you using the AI voice. Sorry, hold on. So they probably don't want you using the AI voice in your podcast, which I totally get. I wasn't going to anyway, to be honest with you. As is, I'm already going to, very much though, cut up this post as well. So here's the thing. I normally would do more prompt chaining with the script as is, but we already spent a ton of time on the script itself, and I've got the script in text form. Normally, I would change the vocabulary. It's overly formal for a practical and casual podcast episode, so I'm going to change the tone myself. Or when I go back in later to copy it, I may ask her to adjust the tone to make it slightly less formal. I have to be really careful because when I say make it super casual. Last week, I got so many slang words that I've never even heard of before. And I'm like, I think that might be a level too far down the casual ladder that doesn't really work for me. So there's that. And again, for those of you that are joining me for the first time, if you want to grab all of the text from the conversation, you just go up to the top 3 dots there and go to share. And then you can have the share link at the bottom here. But be forewarned, I learned this, unfortunately, last week. The share link, the chat itself doesn't last as long as you would think. I went back to something that I did 2 weeks before. I had the share link, but the chat itself was gone, and I had not deleted it. So share the link with yourself if you want to go back to stuff later. Share it with somebody else if they need to look at it quickly. But do not think you can hold on to that for like a few weeks because the information might be completely gone. So I would copy and paste the entire chat somewhere else to make sure that you have it for the future. And I will be doing that as soon as I get off this call. Actually, I have to do that because I'm recording this episode that we just created right now to be released in a few hours from now. So this is a very quick version of the script. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and record the script right now. I'll come back and let you know what my thoughts on the script were. So I'm going to change it as I go. So here goes.
Editing Steph back. If you want to listen to the full episode of Podcast to Connect that I recorded, you can do that at podcasttoconnect.buzzsprout.com. The title is Talk to These 3 Groups for Audience Growth. And now, time for my reflections on how it went.
Okay, I just recorded the episode, and I have to tell you that I tripped on the intro about 3 times, and then I got the intro down. I looked at in today's episode, we're blah, 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 and then I just went. I didn't even look at the list of the 3 types of audiences that I was talking about in the episode. But because Chatty and I went back and forth a little bit, defining them, and she listed them out, and I looked at them before I started to record, just looking at the examples really helped me. And I just went, boom, I made 2 stumbles. This is going to be a really quick edit. But the episode is done. It was 23 minutes to 36 minutes, so it's about 13 minutes. When I edit it down, it'll probably be closer to 10 minutes, which is exactly the time period I want it to be. So that was interesting. See, I'm not someone who likes reading from a script because I can't read and emote at the same time. I'm sure I could work on that if I wanted to, but to be quite honest, to organize my thoughts like that was super useful for this type of episode for me. But for you, if you need to read it because the information needs to be in a certain order, in a certain time, that kind of, it's not that flexible, then I can honestly say that talking through the episode information, having Chatty ask you questions and prompt chaining through getting the script just right, and then just reading from it, probably using a teleprompter. Let me know if you'd like a list. I have a list of them. I think this is a really good way to use Chatty. You're not pulling from bad information that you don't know where it's coming from. You're not stealing from anybody's information online, which sometimes Gen AI can do. It's all your own content. You're asking Chatty, and then she's shaping what you're telling her. So it's got an ethical tone to it. It has a lot of you in it. You'll just have to do some prompt chaining to get the sound of it to be like you. And by sound, I mean the tone, the vocabulary, the pacing, all of those things. You'll have to prompt chain your way through that. And I've got other episodes that talk about how to do that. I really love prompt chaining. It's really fun to do. I think this is a really effective way to build a script for a podcast. So if you try it out, do let me know. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time. Bye.